Good morning and welcome from the Senior Law Day Collaborative. My name is Elena Falcone. I am the Director of Public Innovation and Engagement at the Westchester Library System. I am also a co-chair of the Senior Law Day Collaborative, along with attorneys Sarah Steckler of Keenan Bean and Melinda Bellis of Legal Services of Hudson Valley. We are ably assisted today by Bruce Siegel from Marketing Sense. The Senior Law Day Collaborative is composed of more than 150 professionals who are all eager to bring authoritative information on legal, financial, and health topics to our county's older adults. 3 of those professionals are engaged in the presentation today, which is titled Guarding Our Elders, Combating Fraud, Abuse, and Injustice that Impacts Older Adults. Those partners include the New York State Office of the Attorney General, today represented by Gary Brown. A second partner is Jamie Fair of the Westchester County District Attorney's Office. And finally, we have Roberta Goodman from the Pace Women's Justice Center. This program marks World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, an international UN event observed annually on June 15th that recognizes that abuse of the elderly is an increasing and serious problem as our longevity increases. Before we turn to today's presenters, a few points about the format in which we are working. This Zoom video conference is being recorded with the aim of posting the recording to the seniorlawday.info website. If you have not already visited that site, please note the web address, seniorlawday, one word, .info. There you will find the essential resources on topics such as legal, financial, and health issues, including recordings of past events. So there's a fairly rich cache of materials there. You as participants in this webinar are muted. You do nonetheless have a voice. You can ask questions via the Q&A box on the bottom of your Zoom window. We may not be able to answer all questions that are posed during the event. Unless you choose to ask anonymously, we will work to follow up via email for any questions that we haven't had the opportunity to answer. You might also save your question for a visit to the Senior Law Day site. There, you'll find a button that's clearly labeled Ask Us. You can send us your question using that site and we'll get back to you promptly. Again, that website is seniorlawday.info. Also, you may see a chat feature on your screen. Please use chat to connect with us regarding any technical difficulties, such as any issue with the audio. Finally, some of what we share today may be disturbing. Please know that it's not meant to scare, but to educate, even to embolden. If you believe you have experienced abuse, you will learn today that there are people to help and support you. Please do not be hampered by a feeling of shame or stigma. Rather, turn your experience into an opportunity to learn, to warn, and to protect others. With that, let me now turn this presentation over to Gary Brown with the Office of the New York State Attorney General. Gary, take it away.
Thank you, Elena, and good morning, everybody. On behalf of Attorney General Tisha James, I want to thank you for giving our office the opportunity to participate in this very important World Elder Abuse Awareness Day program. What I'm going to focus on today are so-called stranger danger scams, where someone you don't know reaches out to you, most often by telephone, perhaps by text message or by email, and tries to rip you off. And perhaps the most common of these scams that we've ever seen in the history of the United States is the so-called IRS scam, the Internal Revenue Service scam, where the caller claims he's an IRS agent, says you owe money, and unless you wire it or send it to them that same day, they're going to come and arrest you. Now, when you think about it, there are aspects of that call that really don't make sense. First of all, the IRS doesn't call on the phone. Secondly, they don't threaten same-day arrest. And third, they don't tell you to go out and buy gift cards and call back with a serial number when you pay your taxes. But if you don't know that this call is a scam, you're going to be fearful when you get it. I think deep down, we're all kind of scared of the IRS anyway. And so it's a scam that works. And oftentimes when I give these presentations in person, right around this point in the program, I can see from the looks on people's faces that they're thinking, wait a minute, anybody who would fall for a scam like that is an idiot. I'm not an idiot, so what do I have to worry about? I'm a smart person. But the fact is that what the scammers are trying to do more so than outsmart us is to prey on our emotions, be it fear, love, anger, desperation, whatever it is. That's really what they're trying to take advantage of. And so the IRS scam tried taking advantage of fear of being arrested by the government. As more and more people became aware of the IRS scam, the scammers in the last year or so have shifted and started claiming that they're calling from the Social Security Administration, saying they either need to confirm your Social Security number or that there's some payment due in order for you to receive benefits. And so that's become the new variation on the scam. And I think there, the fear that we all have that our benefits will be discontinued is exactly what the con artists are trying to prey on. I got a sense of how this works a couple summers ago when my mother called me. I've never heard her sound so hysterical in my entire life. She said that Con Ed, the utility, had called and they were going to turn off her power that same afternoon if she didn't wire the money because she was behind in her payment. And it was a very hot summer day and she was afraid of, being overheated without air conditioning, having no power in the apartment where she lived. And I got a real up close and personal sense of just how strong the emotional buttons can have a really strong effect if they're able to push them effectively. Now, in that particular case, I calmed my mother down. I said, Mom, no, it's not Con Ed, it's a scam. You've heard me talk about scams. She said, no, Gary, they gave me a callback number and I called them back and they confirmed that I owed the money. And I explained, no, you just called the scammers back. You didn't really call Con Ed back. And I also pointed out to her that my son was living with her, and in order to defray the expenses of him living there, I was paying the Con Ed bill. She wasn't even paying it at all. When I pointed that out to her, she said, oh my God, I feel so stupid. But I said, Mom, it's not about being stupid. It's about being pressured emotionally into doing something that you might not otherwise do. So you can well imagine that with all of the coronavirus fears that are around, there is fertile ground for scammers to try to take advantage of that. So for example, if a caller were to say that you qualify for a free test, that might be something that you'd be interested in doing. If a caller said that he's got something that will cure or prevent coronavirus, that might be something that you'd be interested in doing because we're all fearful of catching COVID-19. In fact, there are no known treatments, there are no known cures right now. So anybody who claims that, that they're trying to rip you off, but it's effective because of the emotions that we're all feeling. In fact, the Westchester Regional Office of the Attorney General issued a cease and desist letter back at the end of May against a spa in Yonkers, which was advertising on its website and on social media that its regimen could prevent coronavirus or cure it if you got it. We had to send them a cease and desist letter to get them to stop that. But these are the kind of claims that are being made across the board, all over the place, often by telephone. And so you need to be very beware of that. We also want to be generous in these times. And so we want to be donating to charities that may help people who lost their jobs or are otherwise affected by the coronavirus pandemic. But there are also fakers out there, bottom feeders, as Attorney General James likes to call them, who try to take advantage of our generosity and get us to contribute to a fake, a bogus charity that really doesn't exist. So it's very important that if you get a call or even any kind of communication from someone claiming to raise money, if it's not a charity you've dealt with before and heard of before, do a little homework before you make that donation. You can go on the Attorney General's website, ag.ny.gov, and see if the charity is registered with the Attorney General's office, as they would be legally required to do if they're soliciting from you who are a New York resident. So we want you to be very careful of that. We're also receiving a lot of communications from people who claim they're getting calls about grant eligibility, that if you can give them information over the phone, the caller says he will apply for a grant, a federal grant on your behalf. And of course, if you give personal information over the phone, it's going to be used to commit identity theft. And if you wind up sending money, you're never going to see that money again. But people are fearful of financial consequences during the pandemic. And so these kind of scams are proliferating. Sometimes we warn about scams and it turns out it really isn't a scam at all. We started getting calls a couple of weeks ago from lots of folks, including elected officials, who had received a debit card in the mail, said in the envelope, the letter inside the envelope, that this was your stimulus payment, but the envelope came in a nondescript, plain wrapper. It had an Omaha, Nebraska return address on it. And many people thought that it was a scam or junk mail and they were throwing it out. In this case, it's legitimate. The debit cards were mailed to 4 million Americans. If you already 3 years out, there's a procedure. You can go on the IRS website to apply for another one. But I think sometimes our fear of scams can get the better of us and we maybe think something's a scam that really is not. Social media messages are being used to rip people off, particularly in relation to so-called contact tracing, where if someone is infected with the coronavirus, contact tracers will reach out to people who that person may have come in contact with to tell them that they should be self-quarantining for a period of time. We are getting reports from people who are receiving both telephone calls and text messages from callers who say that they're contact tracing, but they're not just asking where have you been and who have you been in contact with, They're asking for personal information, credit card numbers, bank account numbers, social security numbers, and the like. This is information that would never be asked for in a contact tracing phone call. So be wary of that as well. If you get a call from someone who says they can help you get unemployment insurance benefits, that's going to be a scam as well. The state is not going to be calling you. They may call you if you apply for unemployment, but they're not going to call you out of the blue to tell you that you may be eligible and to try to assist you in applying for that. So let's talk about some of the general rules that we should be following when we think of the telephone. For starters, we encourage you to think of the phone as a one-way street. And by that we mean it's only safe to give out personal information over the phone if you made the call to a number you know to be the actual number of your bank, your credit card company, etc. If someone calls you, you really can't be sure who they are, if they are who they say they are. So be very, very careful about giving out personal information over the phone unless you made the call. Even better yet, we encourage you, don't answer the phone unless you recognize the number on caller ID as being a number from someone that you know, your spouse, your child, etc. Otherwise, let it ring through to voicemail. Scammers generally won't leave a message, but if they do, you can easily delete it. But once you answer that call, their computer is now going to see that you were a live answer. It doesn't matter whether you fall for the scam or not. They're going to keep calling your number, and they're going to sell your number to other scammers who will call you as well. So the thing is that the more of these scam calls you answer, the more you're going to get. And the fewer you answer, the fewer you're going to get, because eventually if you never answer the phone, your number will drop off the list that they use to make these calls. I sometimes hear from people who say, oh, when I see it's a scam call, I like to pick it up. I stay on the line for 10 minutes, I waste their time, and then I go, ha ha, and I hang up. And I point out that, first of all, you just wasted 10 minutes of your own time as well as 10 minutes of the scammers, but also you just guaranteed that they're going to keep calling you more and more and more. So just remember, the more of these calls you answer, the more you're going to get, and the fewer you answer, the fewer you're going to get. As more and more of us are not answering the phone unless we recognize the number, the scammers are trying to figure out ways to trick us into answering. They're using a technique called neighbor spoofing. They spoof a number on your caller ID that's the same area code and exchange as your number, but the last 4 digits are different. And they're hoping you'll think it's someone you know, a local neighbor, a local business, and pick up on that basis. So don't answer unless you recognize the entire number. And then another thing they're doing, and I have to admit I fell for this one myself, is they'll spoof your own phone number. And you kind of look at your cell phone, you hold it up and you see it's your own number calling you, and you wonder, can you butt dial yourself? What's this all about? So I answered the call out of curiosity, and it turned out to be a salesperson trying to sell me something. They had tricked me into answering my phone by spoofing my own number. So you can't call your own number. If you see your own number here, don't answer it either. So we want you to stay safe, folks. As Elena said at the outset, the goal here is not to scare you, but to empower you, to give you news you can use to stay safe in your daily lives. So thank you very much.
Gary, thank you very much for that. I want to say that having heard you talk about some of this before, again, I hear that the takeaway is no one's going to come knocking on my door asking me if I'd like to get tested. No one's going to come knocking on my door saying, hey, I can help you with employment insurance. Those knocks on the door and those unsolicited phone calls are really things that we have to be wary of.
Yeah.
And I want to call out to everyone that the resources that Gary mentioned, he's mentioned a number of tools that you can use to keep yourself safe, to check on what people are telling you. Those are going to be shared later on, but it's all on our website, seniorlawday.info. So there's a lot of resources that you can turn to, such as the CDC, Medline, and other resources teed up by the collaborative. With that, let us now turn to Jamie Fair from the Westchester County District Attorney's Office. Jamie, welcome.
Thank you, Elena. My name is Jamie Fair. I'm the elder abuse prosecutor from the Westchester County District Attorney's Office, and the District Attorney's Office is very happy to be a part of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day today. You know, I have been the elder abuse prosecutor on and off for our office from 2011. It's a job I really enjoy. It's the ability to help people who maybe think that they don't necessarily need our help, but that's what we're here for. And, you know, on a personal level, you know, I have grandparents who were very near and dear to me, and they lived in Florida. And I never would have thought that they would have fallen for any type of scam, but they were the victim of a scam. And it was a little bit of a scary scam. And it's a scam similar to what I'm going to speak about today. But they had somebody come knocking on their door saying they needed help, and my Nana let them in. And while she was helping this woman and her young child, the husband went and took all of my grandparents' jewelry. So it was very hard for them. It was very difficult. And they didn't tell us for a long time. And there were a lot of reasons for them not telling us. They had been living independently in their home in Florida, and they were fearful that our family would say, the time has come for you to give up the house. Something like this happened. You know, you need to give up some of your independence. And I find that that's a big issue in a lot of these cases. Like Elena said, I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to talk gloom and doom, but I do want you to be armed with the knowledge to help yourselves not fall victim to these scams. The cases that I deal with, the district attorney's office, are not always stranger scams. There are some, but a lot of the cases that I deal with are your family members who are the perpetrators. Your sons, your daughters, maybe a home health aide, somebody who preys on the elderly, because unfortunately, today, there are people who do prey on the elderly. And so in those cases, I want, the big takeaway here is, it's not okay for your son to, maybe force you to give over your check that you're getting every month, or to live in your house rent free and not help and not take the money that's supposed to be for VC. In the past, in the district attorney's office, I have had people who have lost their homes or lost their place to live because an adult child who may have a drug addiction or an alcohol problem or a gambling problem has taken the checks that were meant for the utilities. And so it's nothing to be ashamed of. These things happen, and we do have the ability to help you. And there are services available. I just also want to make sure that you're aware that the district attorney's office has an elder abuse helpline. And it's not just for cases where you think that somebody's committed a crime against you. It's a voicemail recording, and you'll get a call back from me within about 24 to 48 hours. And it's for anybody who's needing some help. And the number is pretty easy. It's 995-1940. And we often partner with other resources and other agencies, and we'll be able to direct you if you just have a situation going on and you're not quite sure where to go. A lot of my other cases, and unfortunately, involve home health aides who it's sometimes seen as a license to steal, because you're counting on somebody to help you for all of your daily living activities, and it couldn't be somebody that you truly trust and care for. Very recently, I had a home health aide who took very, very good care of her patient who was completely with it, except her body is failing. And this home health aide started writing checks to herself, and it wasn't discovered for a very long time because they were similar to the check she was being paid with. And when it was discovered, it was a really big amount of money. And the biggest part wasn't losing the money, because they were able to get that money back from the family. But the biggest part was the ache of my victim, the hurt to believe that somebody could do this. And what ended up happening is she still needs care, and now she doesn't trust anybody. And so we do have people and agencies that we partner with who can help with that part. Because dealing with a loss, financial, also has emotional implications. And that's what we want to try to help. We want to try to help you completely and in the whole picture and do the best. Other cases, like I said, are people who have been targeted due to their age. A couple of years ago in New Rochelle, there was a crew of men who were going to the ShopRite on Palmer Avenue and preying on people who parked in the handicapped spots. And what they would do is they would wait for the person to go inside, and it was usually an elderly person going to get groceries, and they would damage the vehicle in some form. And when the person came out, they would rush over and say, I see this damage to your vehicle. I can help you. I have a shop. We can actually do it right here for you. We can take care of it, but you need to give us cash. And there were people who were falling for it, and we were able to get them in the act in one of them after several people had been taken advantage of. And unfortunately, this actually happens. So it is something just to be aware of and just to think about. One of the other things I always talk about is something that I do. I know many of us aren't going out grocery shopping. I do sometimes because I have a young child, and sometimes there's things I just have to go out and get. So it sounds so simple, it sounds so silly, but we're still seeing in grocery stores that people are stealing out of wallets and stealing out of pocketbooks. So one thing that I do if I'm not wearing a crossbody bag, right, which nobody can get in, one of my other tips that I often tell my seniors is make sure that you stay close to the cart, and I buckle my pocketbook in and I close it. So it's just something for you to think about. Some of these tips, because like I said, I just want to make you feel armed to feel safe in your community, because that's what this is all about. Some of the other cases that, a lot of the cases we see are financial, but one of the big things that I wanted to touch on today that I'm sure everybody has heard of in some shape or form. And like Gary said, we often speak together. And when I start speaking about this particular scam, people start shaking their heads and they know they've gotten this call, is the grandparent scam. And I don't know if you're all aware of it, or maybe you have heard of it in a different level, but it's still going on in Westchester County. And I'm going to tell you that it's still going on during the coronavirus pandemic. We've actually had some successful arrests during these last few months, but what it involves is that you get a phone call in the middle of the night usually, or at a time when you're not expecting a phone call, and it's somebody who says they're either a lawyer, a judge, or a bail bondsman. They may not know who your favorite grandchild is, and I know everybody has one. I am the favorite grandchild myself, but they'll say, Graham, or they'll say, hi, I'm calling your grandson. And you immediately say, Johnny, what happened to Johnny? And then they know Johnny's who they should be talking about. And what they do usually is tell you the one we've seen lately is Johnny's been in a car accident. He had some beers. He had gotten into an accident with another car, and it's bad, and we need bail money. The judge is asking for bail money. Can you come up with X amount of dollars? Once they ask for X amount of dollars, they say they need it. And it used to be that they'd ask you to send gift cards. It used to be that they'd ask you to send cash in a box to a location. But what's happening today is they're sending somebody, an agent, a bail bond agent, to your house to collect the money. So they know where you live, and they're going to come, and they're going to have somebody come face to face to get a package from you. And that package is going to contain cash. And once that package is turned over, you're never going to see it again. The scammers have gotten smart in the last couple of months, I'd say, and they are giving receipts to my victims with their name on it, with the lawyer's name or the bail bondsman's name and the date, to make it seem like it's more legitimate. They tell you not to reach out to your grandchild, to not let anybody know, please, I don't want my parents to know. So here, like Gary talked about, they're playing with your emotions. There's nothing like the love of a grandparent for their grandchild. And to think that they need your help and they reached out to you is a wonderful thing, but it's not true. So in these cases, what happens is they'll ask for money. And if you say you can get it, they'll often call back and ask for more money. They'll say the woman he got into the accident with, she was pregnant and she's lost the baby. And so in order to cover, the bail, which is now increased, we need more money. If they've already come to your house to get the money, they'll send people again. It may not be the same people. The people coming to pick the money up, aren't necessarily so invested in the scam. They may only be getting $100 from everything, but they deposit it to a different person, and that money is long gone. And it's very hard to track these people down. But it is a very lucrative business. I have one case that's still, pending, where somebody lost about $40,000 before he realized it was a scam and contacted the police. So it is going on. Everybody thinks why would you fall for that? I would never fall for that. But if it's the middle of the night and somebody's saying something about your relative and worried and worrying you, people fall for it. In my most latest case, my victim got smart, and he actually started driving to New Jersey himself, where they said they were located. And then couldn't get in touch with the people who had called him. And then they called him back and they said, no, you don't have to come down to New Jersey. Please, go back to your house. We'll send somebody to your house. And that's when he realized this doesn't seem right. And he called his granddaughter and she said, Grandpa, I'm absolutely fine. I'm at work. Nothing has happened to me. Call the police. And in that particular case, it's always a good case where we're able to save somebody's money where they actually don't lose any. So my big takeaway from the grandparent scam, aside from even if they tell you not to call your family, call your family. The other takeaway, which I think is so important, is if you think that this could possibly be a scam and you're not sure maybe you don't want to call your family, call the police. They'll be able to help you walk through it. And if we can save you from parting with your money, it's always a better day than only being able to maybe get back some of it or not being able to get back any of it. In some of the cases, by the time we catch up with the people who have come to your house to get money, they only have about $200 to $300 on them because they've passed off the real money to the next person. And, you know, we're hearing new cases about this all of the time. District attorneys' offices are often sharing conversations. Police departments are sharing conversations about all of this, all because we want you to be able to reap the benefits of all of your hard work that you've put in for your lifetime. You know, a few of my victims have really lost everything, and that it shouldn't be that way. So if you feel that you've been, you know, victimized in this way and you're not sure you want to go to the police or you think possibly it happened, anything that you can turn over to us or to the police would be helpful to try to stop this happening to the next person. So you should feel free to reach me at the district attorney's office. My number, which Elaine is going to give you after, I'm sure, is 995-3000. Again, my name is Jamie Fair, but you should always feel free, if you have a good relationship with somebody at your police department, reach out. We're here to assist you. Like I said, I just want to educate you. You are able to be at this webinar. You were able to hear and see what we're saying. You have some friends who couldn't. So take some of this knowledge and spread it to your community. And if you have any questions or the district attorney's office can be of any guidance, please feel free to reach out.
Jamie, thank you for the call to action in that. I guess there's a question or two here about how to understand or think about the spectrum of response. Gary was talking about things that are clearly scams. You know, they're criminal acts that are being perpetrated widely on unsuspecting individuals. And then there's the notion of abuse, where it's something happening closer to home. You know, and you were talking about a crime, somebody, you know, rear-ending a handicapped vehicle and then getting people's money in exchange for repair. But what if it's something closer to home? What's the response? Do I, if I think my son might be doing something, or you know, a grandparent or my neighbor is being affected, do I call on someone's behalf? How do the questions get asked?
So that's why we have the elder abuse helpline at the district attorney's office, which is that 995-1940 number, because even if it's not a crime, perhaps it's something that we need to get an investigation started and we can engage the police department. Also, the district attorney's office, we are lucky enough to have an investigator who is devoted to elder abuse. So she and I work very closely together, and we work with our partners. You're going to hear from Roberta Goodman next from the Pace Women's Justice Center. Often, you know, we work hand in hand with Family Services of Westchester, with Pace Women's Justice Center, with lots of different agencies. So if it's not something that rises to the level of the crime, we'd be more than happy to make that referral or to make that connection, or to figure out what we can do to make your situation a better situation.
Terrific. I think that may actually, I'll let Roberta jump on, because I know there was one question about if you haven't got a particularly close family, you know, who talks about these things, how do you know, what can you do to create an open relationship so some of these challenges can be talked about? Like if an elder has a question, you know, should my nephew be asking me for this? That speaks to the whole realm of family dynamics, which you can't, you know, it's hard to solve in the moment. So I think that's possibly Roberta's organization, maybe the one that can help us figure some of that out. But Roberta, take it away. Maybe you can help to answer that.
Okay, so let me see if I can just touch on that one first, because it's fresh. You know, nothing is isolated. you always have to look at the larger picture. And it's always important to talk with the individual, the older adult, who's asking the question alone, because you want to remove them from any of the influences of a family member tugging at their sleeves or at their pant leg, because now we're really not having face-to-face consultations, we're doing it virtually. And it's important to see who's asking the question and who's in the room, because you want to develop a trusting circumstance where the individual feels comfortable confiding in you, and then you can ask some specific questions which would help you to identify, is this a trusted individual? What steps should be put into place in order to make this work? Because in fact, many people do need assistance. So it's not a simple answer. I like to say there's no such thing as a simple will. Things are complex and they're layered and they're nuanced. So in trying to have a conversation with the person one-on-one is important. One of the things that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes is during these difficult times, it's very challenging for an individual to find a way to have a confidential conversation. We don't know who's in the home with them. But as doctors' offices are opening up, perhaps there's an opportunity for the individual, even if they're accompanied to a physician's office with a family member, to have an examination or a consultation with the physician where they can confide in them, even if it's just for a few moments, so that they can brainstorm to figure out what's the next plan. What we did in the past when we had people that were able to come to our office, sometimes they would say they would be going to the hair salon or a physical therapy appointment or something other than going to a lawyer's office. I know that the library system has been a tremendous resource for individuals, and some of your staff have been trained to listen to different situations that have been presented. And then, because you're part of the Senior Law Day Collaborative and you are familiar with the various resources in the county, which are multitude, you can figure out how to make a referral for that individual. So I hope that addresses the question.
No, that's really helpful. And Roberta, I didn't get to introduce you. Roberta Goodman from the Pace Women's Justice Center, jumping right in and giving us direction.
Okay, so thank you. I'm one of the staff attorneys in the Elder Justice Unit of the Pace Women's Justice Center. And we provide free civil legal services to men and women who have experienced mistreatment, domestic violence, or sexual assault. These are extraordinary and challenging times. We've never had to deal with the inability to operate under these circumstances for such a prolonged and protracted time. And although we're sheltering in place and oftentimes alone and lonely and not personally attending community activities, you are not alone. There are many resources in the county. And we've heard some specific examples of scams, of mistreatment, of criminal activity. And I'm not going to necessarily give you any more. I think that some of you may identify with what you've already heard. I'm going to talk more generally. What is elder abuse? And more importantly, why is this day important? Why is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day an important day? It's because it's designed to raise awareness and to provide us with an opportunity to promote better understanding of elder abuse. You've heard it many times this morning. We're here to educate you, not to scare you, but to allow you to feel comfortable in coming forward. Elder abuse involves power and control. And what does that control look like? Emotional abuse. Someone's controlling who you see or speak with. They may be inflicting hurtful or making denigrating comments. They're creating fear, coercing you to do things you don't want to do, monitoring your telephone or your email accounts. You may be the victim of physical abuse, a pinch, a shove, a punch, controlling your access to food or medication. Financial exploitation, diverting your finances for the controller's personal use. Maybe they're a joint signatory on your bank account and you only put them there for convenience purposes, but they're helping themselves. Or they're a designated power of attorney on your account and are supposed to act as your agent. Financial exploitation can also be the unauthorized credit card usage, or maybe someone's taking out loans in your name. Gary Brown talked about stranger danger and scams, sexual abuse, unconsented to touching. What happens when a trusted family member becomes your abuser? It is your right to speak up. There's no stigma in asking for help. You have options. And I know many people do not want to have police involvement, but you don't always necessarily need to engage the police. What are your options? What should you do? In many circumstances, you might want to create a safety plan. You should have a go-to bag. You should change the passwords on all of your accounts. You want to be careful with your social media posts. You want to keep your cell phone charged and handy. You may want to freeze your credit reporting accounts, your credit accounts. The 3 credit reporting services allow you to freeze your accounts without charge so that no one can open up an account in your name. No one can take out a mortgage on your home without your being made aware. And you can unfreeze that account at any time. What if you want to get a car loan? I also talked about trying to find an opportunity to have a one-on-one, even if it's a virtual one, conversation with a healthcare provider or some other trusted individual, so you can confide in them and get some guidance. One of the remedies for someone who is abusing you, if they are a family member or if you are in an intimate relationship with that individual, you don't have to be married. You can be boyfriend, girlfriend. You can share a child together. You can seek a family court order of protection. That's a civil remedy. And our office can assist you with getting one. The judge will order the abuser to stay away from you, to move out and have no contact with you. Or the judge may order the abuser to stop behaving in an abusive manner towards you. You have some control when it comes to a family court order of protection. If the agent is abusing, if the abuse involves your trusted agent now misusing their power to access your finances, in many circumstances, you can revoke that authority. As Jamie said, acting sooner rather than later is critical because recovering the funds is not always possible, and delay can be your enemy. We encourage you to be aware, to look at what your financial statements say, check your bank accounts, review your credit card reports. When you get your monthly charges, if your monthly bills are not showing up, call the credit card company and find out why. Was the mail diverted? Ask questions. And if you're not happy with the answers, you should seek legal guidance. Pace Women's Justice Center has a helpline that's staffed by volunteer attorneys. You can call that number, 914-287-0739, and you can seek legal guidance for information referral. Elena will provide you with a list of the resources in the county, and we welcome the opportunity to speak with you and to help you have a healthy existence. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate.
Roberta, thank you. Thank you for your guidance. I'm looking to see if there's, yes, if there's one or two questions that have come in. And actually this allows me to answer a few things. How can the library be a resource either now while they're still closed or as they start to reopen? The libraries are all answering phones. You can certainly contact through the Senior Law Day Collaborative when you ask a question. Librarians are among the people who are responding and who are actually doing very active referral to Roberta's office, to Jamie's office, to Gary Brown's office, and to other resources in the county as appropriate. What I'd like to do is to share with you an image of the website and the resource list that we have begun to refer to. This is the website, the Senior Law Day Collaborative site. And you'll notice here that we have a lot of information. What I want to call out is that there are call outs regarding upcoming webinars where you can register. There's a page here for 2020 webinars. So this event, after it's completed, we will be posting the video for today's event to the site. And we already have posted a resource list that has been mentioned. If you'd like to follow up on any of the issues mentioned here today, there are a number of organizations who provide free consultations, free services, and active support to address issues of elder abuse and injustice. And you'll see that you have the different court systems listed here, the Westchester County Office for Women, Legal Services of Hudson Valley, as well as agencies that specifically deal with issues of abuse and housing and other key issues that are related. Everyone's circumstance is a bit different. So when we get your question, our goal is to really listen and to help you to connect to the appropriate professional who can give you guidance that can allow you to move forward in your life with ease. I think that was kind of where Roberta was taking us. So we don't want, there's enough going on right now. Let's make sure that we address issues like this so that you don't have that added burden. So with that, I want to say again, seniorlawday.info. Remember, the Ask Us button is right here. You click on that button. And any question that comes up in your mind after today, please go to that resource list, go to the website, call someone, or connect directly to the Senior Law Day Collaborative. Librarians and others will be available to assist you and to make sure that anything that you think may be happening that shouldn't be is vetted and addressed. With that, I hope you have a wonderful week, and thank you for your participation.